So I always like to say, Mom, you are the most important player of your family because you are modeling what it looks like for the entire family, including your husband, right? When the mom is regulated, the whole family thrives. Honestly, even if they don't all come to see me, right? Because if mom is feeling better, everybody's feeling better because she's modeling what to do, right?
Welcome to Core Connections. I'm Veronica Ziel, and this is your space for real health, fitness, and wellness solutions. For over 20 years, I've been helping women just like you take control of their health so you can get back to living actively and pain-free. Ready to transform? Let's dive in. Well, welcome back to my Core Connections podcast. Today, I am excited for you all to learn from and hear from a friend of mine, Dr. Veronica Schiltz. So we are going to dive in and talk a lot about nervous system work. And I have personally been working with her and it's been incredible. I'm really excited to see where our journey together continues with the nervous system work that she is doing with me, which is amazing. As someone who I feel like has done quite a bit of work on myself, I'm always intrigued and excited to learn more. And that was a part of what drew me to what Dr. Veronica was doing. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Veronica.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
So I want to start with just you sharing a little bit about you. What got you into not only chiropractic, but really specifically because the way you practice chiropractic is very unique and has definitely, as you go deep into like, it's all about the nervous system. Can you just share like what got you into this work?
Yeah. Well, I'm like, how far back do we want to go? We'll start with like after undergrad because I went to undergraduate school thinking I was going to be like a PT. And then the last semester of my undergraduate career, I went and shadowed a PT and was like, this is not it. So then that kind of like threw me for a loop because I was like, I have no plan B. Like I was just like going to be like all in for that. And so I shadowed just about every profession in the health space, considered medical doctor, nursing, dietetics, all the things. And I couldn't figure out so I kind of landed on like personal training. And that was what I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to open my own gym. Whatever I wanted to do, I wanted it to be my own. And so I planned on doing that. I found an internship that I really, really wanted to do. And I was pretty good about getting the job that I wanted. Like, I don't know. I was just like, I was a hard worker. And so I applied for it and I didn't get it. And so I was like, what do I do with my life now? Like that was my next plan B. That's the only plan I had. And so I found a job opening for a chiropractor as a front desk. And I was like, well, I had heard bad things about chiropractic up to that point. I'd never been to one. I was like, but I guess like I could at least use the same terminology, right? Like we all know the body. So I started working for one, and for 2 years they were like, I kept telling them, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I want to do something where no one can tell me what to do. I don't want a doctor telling me how I can treat patients. And they kept saying, you want to be a chiropractor. And so I was like, fine. I looked into it. It's actually super easy to get into chiropractic school. It's not easy to stay into chiropractic school. And so getting in was easy peasy. School was very hard, as it should be probably. And when I got to chiropractic school, I found a group of individuals who were even more holistic than like the natural, maybe I guess, than you would think about with chiropractors. So I started training under them trimester 1. Now, this was in 2019. So I was a COVID chiropractor. Started virtual online, which is crazy, but it was actually such a blessing because I was able to travel and learn from mentors all across the world, or all across I flew to other countries to learn from different chiropractors. And so, once I graduated, I'll kind of skip all that part, but once I graduated, I was like, I have all this knowledge, I have the certifications, I practice way different than most chiropractors. I even tried working for one and it just there's so much I wanted to do that I couldn't do. And so I decided I was going to open my own. And then I found my mentor, Dr. Tony, who is a pediatric experience doctor. And he essentially, what got me involved was he was like, I have all these tools. I did extra schooling and I didn't know what to do with it. So I basically came up with my, holistic nervous system style chiropractic. And I was like, so tell me more. So I got certified by him and the rest is history. And he is like, I always say, I feel like I'm like the younger female version of him because he's kind of crazy, but he is like crazy for the nervous system and I'm here for it. So it's just been fun getting to put all the pieces together and like see it in real time clinically too. So that kind of brings us to where we are today.
Yeah. And I feel like that, and I've said this to you before, I feel like so much of the work that I'm doing in the movement space with the body is very parallel to what you are doing. And I feel like we're using different modalities that work really well together. I think it's very fascinating. I've been to chiropractors since I was young because of all the pain I had in my body. And when you and I first met and you started telling me what you're doing, I was like, oh, I'm very intrigued. And the stuff you have hanging in your office, I'm like, oh, she's speaking my language. This is not just about, forcing the body to move, because that's always been kind of my biggest thing is like when I work with clients, I see a need for chiropractic sometimes
Mm-hmm.
from a perspective, like when we're working the tissue, it's like, okay, we start to unwind the tissue. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we kind of get to a spot where maybe stuff's a little stuck. And then, okay, go see a chiropractor, get a little bit more, manual manipulation, and then we can release a little bit more. But what you're doing is so gentle and you don't do full crazy adjustments for the full body. Can you just
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit? And I know because a lot of our listeners, like they're not all local, some are, but for those that are, all over the, United States, world even, and intrigued by this, I guess make it in a way so that if they are looking for someone that maybe does similar work to you, how could they kind of find someone like you, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
That's
like, I
the
have
hard
good
part.
news. I know. I need someone like me too, girl. I'm trying to find. So no, I have good news and I have bad news. So the good news is that, well, I should start with bad news. So I have even within PX docs, I would say there's not a lot of chiropractors like me out there because I just went and did so much extensive work. Well, that's kind of bad news. It's like, I practice a lot different than even my peers within PX. But the good news is that because I am a part of a certification program, they're very strict on who can not only start but stay. That's really important. Is like there's a lot of certifications where you can do the work, but PX, I really love it because you have to continue to do the work. I'm going back to recertify in 2 weeks just to keep up. It changes so much. The nervous system changes, or I shouldn't say changes. Our knowledge of the nervous system changes all the time. And so you should really find a chiropractor who's passionate about continuing that. There's no like, I did it, I know all the things. And so I feel like PX is really good about finding the chiropractors who are open to learning more. And so there's a directory on the PX Docs website. I think if you just type in pxdocs.com, they have a directory in there. And you can type in where you're located and you can find the closest PX doc toward you. He's all the way out in Australia. Like he's trying to make sure it's worldwide. So you should be able to find one at least in your vicinity because it's kind of a mission that we're just trying to get a PX doc in every location, right? And so that is the good news. And then I feel like you had asked me another question.
Oh, I want you to talk just more about what you do within the chiropractic and the nervous system. Just share that with everybody so people can understand it better that aren't actually able to like physically understand what it is.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we basically break it into like 3 different things. So first of all, we're going to listen to you very closely. And that, unfortunately, I feel like that should just be like any provider can do that, but not all providers do that, right? So listening is really important. And even within chiropractic, it was almost like you didn't want to chase pain, so we didn't really listen to where they were feeling it, but pain tells us something too, right? So we do a very extensive onboarding in terms of listening. I mean, I asked you even, right? Tell me about your birth story, right? And I think that's such a funny question when I'm thinking about it because I'm talking to adults, right? I do it with kids too, obviously, but I do it with adults because if you've been stuck in a pattern since birth, then that's going to change the way that I approach your care. And so everyone's care is a little bit different. It's all customized, but we can't customize it until we know your story. And you're the one, you as a patient is the one that knows your story the best. And so I want to know all of the different routes you've taken to get to this point in time in my office. And we see a lot of people who are like, I have gone through several providers and basically they're telling me I'm making it up or they can't figure out what's wrong with me. And so that's when they kind of come to my office. And so I get to kind of unpack that whole journey. Then I start to pair that with scans. We do insight scans. And that's like the objective tool that we like to use in PX Docs because chiropractic is a very intuitive profession, but it's you don't get it right all the time, right? Your intuition isn't always 100% perfect. So we want to pair your intuition with your history, with your objective findings in the scan. So we do 3 scans. They're very non-invasive. They're just surface level scans. The most uncomfortable thing is that you got to put a gown on, but then you can put it right back on, right? It's like 10 minutes in a gown. But we don't have to get into that if you don't want to, but we basically do 3 different scans. And across the board, a lot of people who are really big into research are like, well, this one scan isn't very credible, or, I don't want to say credible, but like we don't base your entire care plan based on one scan's finding. We base it on a variety of 3 scans that tell us a pattern. So we're not looking at like, oh, this scan is picking up T8. I'm going to adjust T8. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what's the story your 3 scans are telling me and what pattern can I essentially follow to unwind the nervous system.
And you're also correlating that with health history and that conversation. Because I feel like that's what, like, as an FDM practitioner, like with the labs and things I do, it's like that's what we're doing. We're looking at labs or actual data to give us more insight, because sometimes you have this list of symptoms and health history and you're like, okay, this is great. I have some ideas, but it's that deeper insight. I don't know, just to give kind of a comparable of how like see it from my perspective.
Yeah, no, that's great. I always forget about that piece, because I do. Every time you come into my office, the partnership that we get to have is that you just have to become more aware of your body to tell me what changes you're noticing. And it can be the smallest changes, but you're right. It's like I took the objective finding, but I'm still getting your subjective, I'm still getting your input on what's changing every day, because every time we change every time we address your nervous system and give it new information, it's going to give us a different output. And I'm going to follow that output into where it's coming from internally too. So yeah, that's a good point. And then lastly, this is what I'm like, this is different between every PX talk is we will address your nervous system based on what it needs, but we all have different tools in our tool belt to do that, right? So I would say my knowledge has given me several tools for one area. Like I learned in school how to adjust one part of the body at least 3 or 4 different ways. Head to toe. I know how to adjust your body head to toe, but I'm not going to adjust your body head to toe. I only adjust 1 to 3 things when you come to see me. And that kind of throws people off, because it's like, that's it. And I'm like, yep, that's it. Because I don't want to overwhelm an already overwhelmed nervous system. And so that's kind of like the 3 stages that you'll see. And then we just kind of repeat those stages over and over. We listen, we look, we continue to do scans. You don't just do it the one time you come in. We do them every 6 to 12 visits. And then we adjust based on what we're finding.
Very fascinating.
Journey.
Thank you for explaining that. So I want to go deeper and have you talk about nervous system, because I feel like this is something that comes up all the time. I weave it into conversation a lot, and you are a nervous system expert. So let's go deeper on this.
Yeah.
So I want to start with this. I feel like so many of our listeners, our audience, my clients, everyone feels like they're doing the right things, right? We're moving, we're trying to eat well, but still feeling exhausted, tired, dealing with some pain. And I try to get my ladies, I'm like, you got to slow down. You got to like focus on your breath. That's why like the amount of times that women go in and do my core rehab, and they're like, when they actually listen and slow down, then they get the results they want. But when we try to keep pushing through, can you explain why that is?
Yeah. The best way that I can explain that is you're essentially trying to push a rock up an uphill battle, because I feel like toddlers are a really great example of this. It's like I see a lot of toddlers, they come in for behavior stuff because they're like screaming, they're melting down, they're doing all the things. It's very intense. And I like to say, could you imagine your brain is at a 24/7 rave concert all the time? It's just noisy all the time. You can discipline that, you can create boundaries, you can do all sorts of things, but until you turn the music down, you are fighting it up. You're trying to scream into a nervous system that's already screaming. And so I feel like that's what a lot of, especially probably your clients, will deal with, is that they've had their nervous system cranked to 100,000 their entire lives. And so we honor that and we thank it, because there's a reason why it was stuck in that to start with. But until we turn that music down within the nervous system, it's just so much harder to get it to do what you want it to do. And people do it. Like it's not that you can't do it. The nervous system is very adaptable, right? I would say you were a great example of that, right? Like you used other things to essentially adapt to the world without turning it down. But the cool thing about what we do as a chiropractor, and I should say what I do as a PX doc specifically, is I am trained to help you integrate and to help you calm. A lot of chiropractors, and really like practitioners in general, are about adding to an already stressed out nervous system that doesn't need any more information. It needs to either release or it needs to integrate the information it already has. So that's what my job is in the office, and people keep asking me, how can I do this elsewhere? And good question. Like, that's why I do what I do, because I don't think you can. But if you find another way, you should let me know, because this is the only modality I know of that helps you release and integrate without adding more input to an already stressed out nervous system.
So you're making me think of when we talk a lot about all the to-dos, right? And it comes up a lot with clients, and women notoriously are really good at being like, well, they focus on all the things they didn't get done. And they're like, I need to do this. And I should blah, blah, all these things, right? We have these like ongoing lists of things we should be doing. And I mean, I have to practice this myself of sometimes it's like, actually, what should we not be doing that actually helps us to feel calmer and more balanced. And I know one of those things is, and it kind of came up when we were first starting to work together the first couple of weeks, because you kind of opened Pandora's box for me a little bit in a good way, in a good way. But
Yes.
I was tired. I was tired because I am one of those high functioning, just go, 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 do all the things, as is most of the ladies listening here. We're a lot of us like, we're just going to do all the things. And as someone who's crashed and burned a couple times in my life with health stuff, we have to learn to listen to those things. And I think that even for everybody listening, I think the act of sometimes we just have to do less, as hard as it is. And I to take my own advice. And when I really have worked on it, I'm not perfect. No one is, but it is something that I even personally really work on is listen to my body when I am tired. I really try to prioritize my sleep more when my body's like, I don't have the energy to do much of a workout. And I might go do a little bit because a little bit is good, but I keep it really gentle. But it's really, really important that we listen to those cues in respect to our nervous system. Because, right, what happens if we keep pushing and pushing and pushing? We do crash and burn.
Exactly. But I think that term, that word listen is a good one, but it's also important to understand you can't listen to something you can't hear, right? And sometimes external things, that's why the work that I do, I love, because naturally your body wants to listen to itself. There was just something that taught it not to, right? Like, I always like to say athletes are my hardest clients because they have taught themselves to ignore their bodies to the point that I can't even sometimes understand. They just like, their brain's here and their bodies are here. And so my job is to help connect those dots. And so to the one who's listening, who's like, I know I'm supposed to stop doing these things. I know I'm supposed to slow down. I know I'm supposed to prioritize sleep. I just can't. And it's because you have not yet learned how to listen to your body, because like I said, all those modalities, I could even say like breath work and meditation, those are things I'm doing too to slow down. But your nervous system, when you're fighting a nervous system that doesn't know how to listen to itself, you're fighting an uphill battle, right? So when you come into the office, and hopefully you can attest to this too, but I have another story that I can use. It's like, people just naturally find they gravitate toward rest and they gravitate toward slowing down because it's harder to ignore your body's needs after you've gone through care with me.
Yeah, it is, because your body just have it kind of like screaming at you. You're like, this is what I have to do in order to really get the results that you want to get. Like, that's truly what it is. And there was one night, and it was a week ago, I went to bed at 8:00. I never do that. I would usually be like, no, I'm staying up. I got stuff to do, or I'm just going to hang out with my family. And I was like, no, I went to bed at 8:00. And that is so unlike me. I used to be a crazy night owl, which I am not anymore to that extreme. But I was like, dang, and that I was like, woke up the next day and I felt so good. I was like, actually quite proud of myself.
Like beaming. It
So
is.
ladies listening, it really is. And again, I know I can't go to bed that early most nights anyway, but it's just like the stars aligned and I was like, I just got to go to bed. I was also a little concerned I was starting to get something. That is the other thing with all this, like rest. I just feel like we are all so good at really pushing and pushing ourselves. And I get it. Sometimes life happens and you just, like last night I was working up until 10 p.m. I don't do that much anymore. I try to minimize that late night work or later night just because it's not good to be on our computer and screens and all that. But, it is what it is. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But it's really like when you can, right, finding those little wins, those little successes for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good point too that you're hitting on, is that people think that, I think the reason we talk a lot about slowing down with nervous system work is because so many people are overly stressed. But slowing down isn't actually nervous system regulation. It's the ability to have the choice to do either or. The ability to go to sleep at 8 p.m. without letting your brain override that need and say, I need to do other things. But also the ability to stay up late and focus on what you need to do without taking away from, your capacity. Hopefully that brings some freedom to someone. Is like, if you can't slow down, well, one, you're not listening to your body. I shouldn't say that. You're probably trying to listen. Your brain is physically fighting you to listen to your body right now. And two, once you get to a point of, I feel like we almost get stuck in down regulation because we're like too zen, right? Like you need
Yeah.
you need stress to survive, right? Like if we didn't have stress to get out of bed, we'd have depression, right? So there is that of like so many of us find ourselves, and I used to do this for years, right? I would swing into like 3 days of just sleeping, crying, and doing anything, and then feel bad about it, and then I'd go into overdrive, and then I'd do that cycle forever. And that both sides of that is dysregulation. It's the middle that we find healing and optimal, and we start to thrive in the middle. We should have the choice to do one or the other.
I love that explanation. It's when you need to be able to show up as, the high energy, the super productive, you can do all that without it feeling like it's an added stress for your life. And then when your body is saying, hey, like time to rest, go to bed a little earlier, you can do that as well. I love that explanation. Thank you for that, Micah.
Of course, of course.
Okay, so I want you to talk a little bit more about our spine and alignment, mobility, and how that can affect nervous system regulation specifically, because we do a lot about talking about posture, fascial tissue, and it is amazing to me the amount of times, and specifically with pelvic floor, it's always so interesting that how much emotion, I should say, it brings up for a lot of women. As women, I feel like we hold so much in our pelvis, but even just, following it up the chain with our spine, like, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, what is it about the spine and our alignment that is holding so much in a good or a not so healthy way, in a sense?
Yeah. So my mentor, Dr. Tony, always says we start and stay in the nervous system. And the spine is basically just used our way of getting into the nervous system. So I don't talk, well, that's a lie. I do talk a bit about posture, but not in the traditional chiropractic sense of like sit up straight and, bring your shoulders back. I observe your posture. And I think the spine, because it does surround and encase, the nervous system, it's one of the closest things we have to getting to communicate with the nervous system. And so that's why I would say that every chiropractor does nervous system work, but it's the intention of following through, right? You have to know when to adjust and what to adjust and why to adjust that thing. That makes our work a little bit different from other chiropractors, is they're just kind of, they get stuck on what to adjust and not the other, when and why. And so when you come into my office, I actually love this whole posture conversation because I don't bring it up until after I adjust you, but it's super fun when I get to either adjust a parent and a child or like a couple, because I always see this, right? People will get on my table and they just like slump over and then I'll adjust them and then they just start talking to me like this. And it's so cool when I get to see, like, I'm like, did you notice that? Did you notice the shift? And so it wasn't the posture that was the problem. It was the nervous system, the exhausted nervous system that came on my table and slouched over. And then once we awakened that, so slouching usually like an exhaustion of the nervous system. Once we awaken that with a bigger adjustment, they just naturally sit up nice and tall. They don't even notice it, right? But it's just another way that we get to observe the nervous system in real time without actually looking at, at your brain. So that's what I would say. I don't know if that answered your question, but
that's a fascinating observation that you notice that people going from slouched and then, the little bit adjustment that you do. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, my nervous system just needed a little bit of rebalancing and I'm good to go.
Yeah. Just yesterday I was adjusting someone and I was like, that didn't go well. And he's like, yeah, there wasn't a pop. And I'm like, well, I don't know if you've noticed, but most of the time you don't get a pop with I would say like 50% of the time you don't actually get a pop, but I'm looking for full body integration. I'm not looking for a shift, but I'm looking to shift the nervous system in the biggest, most impactful way by doing the least amount of work and effort, because I also don't want you to, I'm going to say something really not great to my profession, but like at some point, we're just coming in as a Band-Aid. Like we're just coming in as another Advil. I don't want that for you. I always say with my wellness people, my goal for you is to come in because you want to continue to feel good, not because everything regressed and you need to start back over, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I see that with traditional chiropractic. And that's why when I work with clients and I get this question all the time about like, should I keep going to my chiropractor? Or maybe they've been going regularly weekly, and before you know it, 3 months into doing Pilates, whether it's my online stuff or in person, and they're like, yeah, I'm barely seeing my chiropractor anymore because they're doing the tissue work. And I know what we're doing are two different modalities, but kind of in, again, parallels to each other. It is very interesting that, like, with chiropractors, and like I have someone who's like, oh, I just want to go see a chiropractor because I've got this pain going on, whatever. And my biggest thing is, well, find someone that like works within the tissue, which again, what you're doing is even deeper than that because our nerves are encapsulated in our fascial system. So even what you're doing is like taking it to a deeper level. And okay, this is something that's coming up for me, and because I see it so often, and it's kind of just a societal way of like, we want a quick fix and we want our fix yesterday. And I see people will say, I need to go to this chiropractor, or I want to find a chiropractor, I want to go, and, but I only want to go like, once or twice. So that's it. Like, I don't want to have to keep going or things like that. And when we're thinking traditional chiropractic, if we're having to go on a regular basis and we're just adjusting constantly, that truly is, in my opinion, too, a Band-Aid, because we're not working on the fascial tissue of strengthening our weak spots, which means those same areas are going to keep pulling and twisting and whatever. But then also I look at it as chiropractic can be integrated, like even standard, a little bit integrated, right? But we've got to be working on strengthening our body. But what you're doing is even deeper, and it takes time. I guess is where I really try to go with this. It takes time. And I see that all the time too. People are like, oh, I want results yesterday. Or they'll come in and they'll be like, oh, I feel like I should be stronger by now. And it's been like 3 sessions. And I'm like, okay, like hold your horses, you guys. Take some time, okay? Can you speak to the time of this? Because I see it in what I do. And I know you see it in what you do. And it's when like the work with you, like I'm doing a 4.5-month program. That's just my program. And that's not even, but again, I'm not going every day to have you like crack things. Like, I think yesterday I saw you and like, I was like, that's it, you done? And I was like, what did she even do? I mean, I felt you do a little movement, but again, there was no popping, there's no cracking, but I could actually feel that really gentle. It almost makes me think a little bit. I know you're going to be probably like, it's not the same, but just because I've done so much cranial sacral work, is sometimes that's kind of what it makes me think that you're doing a little bit of. If I'm to give it a name, because I don't have another name for it, is it makes me think a little bit of cranial sacral. Yes. But anyway, that's what it makes me think of. So can you talk about, like, I'll want these quick fixes yesterday. What's a mindset shift that we can work on and we're in it for longevity. We're in it for the long haul, whether it's for ourselves, with our kiddos, like, we really have to, when we're thinking of holistic health longevity, like we've got to get out of this societal mindset of, yeah, we all want results yesterday, but that's not the reality. And our body, our fascial tissue, our nervous system, it's not going to do what we want it to do in 3 sessions. In a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You said so many good things. Like I
know. I kind of went on a rant there.
No, I love it. First of all, I just want to, because I think this will be the quickest one. Sacral. So what I call it is tonal work. And that's the only reason, because I have trained under so many chiropractors that all call it something different. And I think that the best way to encompass it or encapsulate all of the things that we do is tonal, right? Looking at tone and getting it to move through the body. So I actually just found a craniosacral therapist in therapist office. And I'm so excited about that, because I'm literally referring one of my patients there who, anyways, it's a whole thing. And it's really hard when you know so much to figure out where your line ends. But I think I finally figured it out. But I get to hand it off to someone knowing that the foundation is set, and she's going to integrate it because she's staying in the nervous system as a PT. I'm so excited about that. So the fact that you connected that doc, it's perfect. It's like, yes, that they're very similar in that realm. Different, but at least same conversation. Yeah. Kind of like what we do. And so I wanted to hit on that. And then I also feel like you just cracked a big code in my head, because I used to get kind of annoyed with people who are just like, I just want to come in when I want to come in, because, and I'm like, truthfully, we don't, not that I turn people away, but like, I strongly advise you don't come here if that's your mentality. But I never thought of it in the sense of, I just want to come in because I don't want to keep going to the same, to be slapping that Band-Aid on multiple times. So I'm now understanding why people have that thought. That was like a disconnect from you, because I'm like, why? Like, why? But it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that they are getting superficial care and they don't want to do that on a regular basis. Again, I don't mean to say that about my profession. I love what I do as a chiropractor, but we all as chiropractors do need to raise our bar a little bit more, because even I have, been seen by chiropractors where they just same thing every single time. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like what, but I digress. All of that to say, the time piece, I feel like, is one that we don't have as much in our office. I should say, don't struggle as much in our office, because I went through your history, right? And even like in your case, you're like, I'm going through like a 4.5-month program. When we started, that was never even an issue, because I literally went from birth. And I said, if I can track some of the things you've been having since birth, 4.5 months really actually doesn't seem that long, right? Like this is a whole lifelong journey. So, right. So I guess in my office, I don't actually have that conversation a ton, minus the first day, because we unpack so much of the history. And I think that so many people just don't connect the dots of how much it took to get to where they were until they sit down and talk to someone. And, I think that's why therapy is so good too. I'm a chiropractor that refers out. Like once I know my job with my foundational work with you is done, you get to go off and do great things with other people, right? Like I don't do other modalities. I'm strictly chiropractic. But when it comes to that time piece, I think we need to remember to connect the dots of like, we compartmentalize our past so much. It's like, I had a stressful childhood, and then I had this like really big trauma, and then I had this like job. We think about our life in these like boxes of like, even when I started the podcast, right? I was like, oh, back when I was an undergrad, like that is a box that my brain has that separates it from other boxes. But what we're actually looking at is a big giant box with all of these experiences in it. And when you come to my office, yes, it's going to take time, because it took X amount of years to get to there, right? And even if you come into my office with an infant, I am now saying, well, how long has mom been in a stress state, right? Because now we're not only talking about this infant's nervous system, we're talking about the shared nervous system of the infant. And we can go into that with adults too, right? Like generationally, we see anxiety and depression and all those things. So that is what we're unpacking and unwinding. And that is why it takes time. I wish I could tell you that, it will take one and done adjustment. That if there is a way, let me know. It's like, I'm in the wrong field. But people literally come to me every single day. I mean, you did that, right? We call that an intensive week, where you come every single day. And the cool thing is that you will see some results. So I would say, if you are going somewhere and you're not seeing results after a good amount of effort, then you can ask some questions. But just know that you're not going to go from, even within an intensive week, you're not going to go from a complete 180. You have to become aware of the progress you're making along the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And for me, which I know I'm not always normal, because I came in feeling actually pretty darn good. And, part of it was, I would say half was curiosity. I always want to learn new things. And the other half was, I think there's some stuff here we could probably unpack. And definitely we did. So it was very interesting. Like I said, I felt more tired initially. And then, I turned a corner from that, and I was like, I can tell that, because like I said, I had already done so much nervous system, regulation. And so I can feel even more variation now, I guess, right? Like that differentiation, which is what kind of back to what we talked about earlier, where we want to teach our body how to be able to be calm, so our body can actually feel that. But also when we need that energy, or we need that little bit of stress to like push us through different things, like that's actually important. But we shouldn't be feeling like we're running from a bear.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
The
That
bear
is the problem.
needs to go home.
Yeah.
Okay, and I do want to touch on, just because you have mentioned the tiredness.
Yeah.
We call that a neurodetox. So I do want to just touch on the fact that I think your neurodetox was like exceptionally beautiful and graceful. We have some that are very difficult. Like I've seen all kinds of things. And so I do think, I was actually just talking to this about with a patient who came in and was like, I feel terrible. And honestly, I'm like, yay. Not with them, but I do tell them like, this is actually really good, because the thing about it is I'm not undoing anything new to your nervous system. I am uncovering what you ran away from. And the problem that a lot of people face is that they don't want to deal with the hard that it takes to go through healing. So I do try to, like, when someone is signing their care plan, I do like to preface, hey, you're going to feel worse before you get better. Okay. And the only way to get through it is through it, right? You can't avoid it like you used to do. You're going to find some things that you kind of ignored. And this is even also within toddlers. Sometimes I'll see toddlers go back to start crawling because they never crawled, right? So that's a very physical example of the brain literally working through what it should have worked before. But adults go through that too. You're not going to start crawling Someone said that the other day. I was like, "Am I gonna start crying?" I don't think so. I never know. I don't want to say no, but like I don't think so. No,
I
but
haven't
you're
seen
gonna
it
go. Right, but honestly, at this point, anything could happen. But you will go through things that you kind of ignored, and you'll just have to like. I've had people have crazy dreams. I've had people had throwing up and vomiting. I've had people get really tired, and So just I think I just wanted to hit on that really quickly of like you can't avoid those things, but we have the tools to help you work through them better than you had the first time you experienced it.
Yeah, because otherwise it's still there within your nervous system and you're just continuing to band-aid them with whatever you're doing in
Exactly.
life to help keep pushing through. Yeah.
Yep.
So you hit on something that I want you to talk a little bit more about, if you could. The generational, stress, stuff that I mean, I talk about this with pregnancy
Mhm.
specifically, right? So, that's why I think during pregnancy, it's why I love the movement aspect. So much of what I teach, helping moms better prepare their body for birth. We see across the board, our moms have such easier recoveries because their body is so much better prepared. And I get very passionate about that because their stress is less. Or they
Mhm.
just are a little less sleep deprived. But, there's things just are easier for them because all that can impact baby positively and
Mhm.
negatively if it's impacting mom. So, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know I see little kids in your office all the time, which I think is amazing. I think that this work can be really fascinating if we can start them off even younger at getting their nervous system more on point, that we're setting them up for even better success in life.
Yeah. Yeah, really that's why it's called pediatric experience because really the goal is to get as young and as early as possible. And we even going into perinatal, right? Because if you can set the foundation as early as in the womb, you will have a completely different child, right? I mean, it's just crazy how I have people when they come and I'm kind of segueing. I'll come back to what your original
Yeah,
question
you're
was, but I
good.
have people that come through care and they change jobs or they change relationships or they just have really big one mom started homeschooling, right? Like they have huge life changes when they come through my office. Not everyone, but a lot actually. And I kind of almost need to tell people, like, just so you know, you might change your whole life because, you're in your profession, you're in that relationship, you're in whatever situation because of the survival state you're in. Once you get out of that survival state, it is so hard to integrate back into a lifestyle that your nervous system never was really wanting in the first place, right? It only chose it based on survival. Now you're out of survival. It's like, wow, I have so many choices now. And then I have the capacity to do something about it, right? So I just like to touch on that because I just think that's a really cool, like, side effect, if you will. I'm not telling you to quit your job, but I'm also not telling you, But when it comes to like generational, there's so many layers to this and I'm still learning all about it. But definitely from like a perinatal sense is you one of the first structures to be formed is your brain and your nervous system, right? Like that's one of I think that by weeks, what is it, 4 to 6, I think is when that starts happening. So you and mom's nervous system get real close for those 9 to 10 months, 40 weeks, right? And so that process of mom growing you in the womb is literally the nervous system communicating with the other nervous system like, okay, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to do it. So that's why when we have stressed out mamas, you often have colicky babies and constipated and can't latch and very tense, like sitting up babies too soon, right? So already in the womb we're being modeled, and some moms are like, great, like now my stress is leaching into my kids life, and I'm like, well, but think about like if you had stressed out, let's say back in the day when physical stressors were more common, if you had a stressed out mom and a baby that was like, woohoo, let's do this. Think of what a shock that would be to the baby's nervous system to come into a world where it had no idea that stressors were happening. That's really a protective mechanism, right? It's safety. It's saying, hey, mom's stressed out, so baby, you need to be a little bit more stressed out so that we can like navigate this stressor together. Now, unfortunately, we're kind of stressing ourselves out even without the physical, right? It's almost like more the mental stress. But it works the same, right? Honestly, still, even so, if it's just mental stress, if a baby comes out and the mom's anxious, connecting is going to be so much harder, right? Because it's like, I don't understand why you're stressed out. Like, I'm just, I'm just new here. So it's also like a connecting mechanism for mom and baby to hopefully have a better bond because it's like, you get me, right? We just shared a whole nervous system for all this time. And then, so it's very interesting though, because let's say, that kiddo comes out, let's say we get them adjusted. If that baby, and I should say, if that mom is still stressed out, that baby's going to go back into the world of her, her mom, and become stressed again. You can't, unfortunately, you can't out adjust your environment, right? So I always like to say, mom, you are the most important player of your family because you are modeling what it looks like
Yeah.
for the entire family, including your husband, right? when the mom is regulated, the whole family thrives. Honestly, even if they don't all come to see me, right? Because if mom is feeling better, everybody's feeling better because she's modeling what to do, right? Like generationally, it's like my mom and my grandma and my great grandma were all stressed out, so I'm stressed out. And it's like, yeah, they modeled that to you. Now you can go ahead and let's work on that. And it's so cool to see, especially around the holidays when they go back home and they're like, wow, I see it now. And even they're like, I'm starting to feel anxious again, like they just by being back in the room with them, because
Yeah.
that's a strong neurological connection, right? And so yeah, hopefully that answers your question on how we think it runs in the family, but it's really just like a nervous system passing down the blueprint to other nervous systems.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation. So, ladies listening, those of you that are pregnant or planning to be pregnant, sounds like kind of the best time if you're local, you can work with Dr. Veronica or try to find someone like her, or just even that awareness of really any nervous system work you can do is better than not doing anything,
Exactly.
right? Could you share some tips for our listeners when they're like, okay, there's just no one near them that's like you? What would be, okay, outside of like doing the work with you, or someone like you, what are other modalities that you see can help take the edge off, let's say?
Yeah. So I am still, I'm kind of working through this out in real time. I do have a chiropractor that I see, and she's super great, but I would love to do like some of this deep rooted stuff with someone. So I'm like
Yeah.
trying to hire someone to do it for me. But I'm kind of navigating that right now too, of like, okay, when I'm just feeling like over the top, because I'm passionate about this because hey, hello, like we're all speaking to like the same type of women, right? Is your breath work and meditation is, I think, as close to the calm state that you can get. Now it's going to be a lot harder, right? So a noisy brain, trying to get the noisy brain to calm down and breathe. So if you can go to any chiropractor, honestly, I think any chiropractic is better than none. And I apologize if I made it sound like that is not the case. Because it's still, like I said, every chiropractor is still addressing the nervous system. They might not just be unpacking the things like what we're doing, right? So if you can get into, especially, I always like to say someone who works with babies, because you have to have some level of tonal work to work with a baby of any kind, right? You have to be like, when you're working with a pain-based clinic, they're very like mechanical and structural. When you're working with a chiropractor who is really good with babies, they had to have learned some sort of tonal technique that they can apply to adults. So that's why
very
I always
good.
say,
That's good to know. I wouldn't have thought about that, but that's great. Yeah.
that's what I recommend to people who don't have a PX doc near them, is like, if they, like I said, if they work with babies, it's a good place to start. So once you start even doing that, pairing that with breath work and meditation, your autonomic nervous system. So breathing, this is kind of a fun fact. Your breath is one of the only, I think there's one of like 3 mechanisms in your body that is both autonomic and voluntary, right? So that's a fancy way of saying not only does your breathing happen without your input, it can also happen with your input. There's very few things in the body that can do both. And so when you channel that breathing, you're also addressing your autonomic nervous system to hopefully slow things down and calm down. And so find some sort of breathwork meditation modality that's going to help you move through that you enjoy. Like, I don't want you to think about emptying your mind and thinking about nothing. Like, I don't even think that's actual meditation, but like focusing on something, finding something that can get your brain to calm down, and then pairing that with breath and meditation, whether that's prayer, whether that's, all kinds of things. That is what my favorite thing to incorporate during care with me, but then also especially after care, so that you can kind of take the reins over your health as well.
Yeah, I figured that's what you were going to say. That's why we do so much. It's so interesting with the breath, and we do so much breath focus. And like right now in beginning of the year, we got a lot of new clients coming in the studio and trying to teach people the breath. And they're always like, I've heard this from, I would say probably 99.9% of people, and probably the ones that would like already know are probably, Pilates instructors. But even all of them may not fully understand either. But the breath, everyone's like, the breath feels backwards from the way that we teach it. And part of it is, like you said, you're already breathing, but now I'm actually making you think about it. And then how is your breath connecting with your body? And in the studio, and I encourage this online as well, work out barefoot, you guys, or we do socks in the studio, but like that way we're feeling our feet a little bit more, because that can help to ground us. We're getting that fascial system, which goes again up through the spine, and then slowing down and closing your eyes. Oh my gosh, I cannot stress that enough. So ladies listening, this is why I love the gentle ball work I teach online. I feel like it's kind of the next best thing, because especially a lot of you listening, you found maybe because you either want to be moving more or you are a
Mm.
mover and you want to learn how to move better, that
Mhm.
like closing your eyes and visualizing your breath and doing some of the fascial release work with the ball. To me, that's one of the best modalities I have found that you can do yourself
Mhm.
to help you get out of that like monkey mind, busy mind chatter up there and
Mhm.
actually help teach you how to drop into your body a little bit more.
Mhm.
But you can't go fast. A lot of people, they just like, they move fast. They're like trying to roll. I'm like, no, 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 slow down. We have to go slow, like go so slow. And the amount of people, I'm like, you're going to feel like you're doing next to nothing. And
Mhm.
then their body struggles because you're like, no, I like, they're trying to force their body to be like, I got to just do it and get it done. It's like another thing on their to-do list. And I'm like, no, don't look at this as a to-do. This is like you actually nourishing your body. So for
Mm.
me, just like adding on to that for our ladies listening that are like, where can I go? That would be my suggestion from just a gentle movement perspective that can help if you don't have anyone locally to work with, because it's just, we've got to retrain our brain too, I feel like, with all of this.
Yeah. Yes. And then you
Yeah.
also hit on like slowing down. And yeah, so I would say all of those things. I think that's one of the biggest questions I get when people start care with me. And they're like, what do I do? Like, what's my exercises? And I'm like,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
If you can just sit in a room and do nothing for like 1 second, that's actually part of our scans, right? Is getting you to sit down for 3 minutes. And some people really struggle with that. And so, yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah. We're like, when people come and do their sauna sessions at the studio, I'm like, leave your phone out in the cubby, go back. And they're like, 30 minutes without my phone. I'm like, yeah, you're going to feel amazing. It might
Right.
feel a little weird in the beginning, but it is really, really hard to do that. I feel like I worked on that when I was going through my mold crisis. That was when like I did
Mm.
my first deep dive into, you don't always have to be doing something. And that is really hard. So ladies listening, I have personally experienced that. I'm sure I could
Mhm.
still work on it more. I know there's still work to do for sure. Like we're always all work in progress, right? It's a
Mhm.
journey. It's not a destination with any of this work that we talk about.
Yes.
So anyway, well, Dr. Veronica, thank you. Is there anything we haven't hit on that you wanted to leave our listeners with?
I think one of the things that you'll find, hopefully in every PX Docs office, but definitely, this office is honoring your body for where it's at. I actually just had a conversation yesterday of someone who's like, oh, like just was annoyed with where her brain was at. And I was like, well, I actually think healing's gonna take a lot longer when you continually criticize your body because that's technically a mental stress,
Mhm.
right? You're adding shame and judgment, and now you're working against what we're working on. And so I just like to tell people to get curious instead of getting annoyed or critical or shame filled about something that your body is doing. It's there for a reason. It was ultimately there for your protection. And so I just like to say, honor your body and the journey you've been through. You've been through a lot. Most of the time you come into my office, I'm like going to get emotional, but I work with people who've been through very, very hard things in their lives for very, very long periods of time. And so we need to honor that whole journey. We need to honor that journey because your body has done amazing things. We just need to get it stuck out of survival so it can get into thriving. So just like every part of your journey is honorable and valuable, and there's nothing that you're not gonna come in here and be told that you did something wrong. You're gonna come in here and be empowered that you're about to do something even better to get you to the next level.
I love that. So well said. Yes. Well, thank you, Dr. Veronica. Will you share with everybody where they can, especially our local ladies, our local clients, share with where they can learn more about you and your practice?
Yeah, so we are Haven Health Chiropractic in Ankeny. You can find us at havenhealthchiropractic.com. Our Instagram is Haven Health at Haven Health Chiropractic, for sure.
I'll
You
put all the things below, so don't
Yes.
worry. Or you
So
guys
we're
can,
very
yeah.
you can Google us, you can look at our website, and you can search us on Instagram. That's pretty much where we hang out, and that is how you can find out more about our office.
Well, thank you so much for all the amazing work that you are doing. I am so grateful that our paths have crossed. Thank you, Lauren, for introducing us.
Yes. Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode of Core Connections. If you found this helpful, please share it with a friend who could benefit from today's conversation. And come connect with me over on Instagram at Erica Ziel. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway. Until next time, keep moving forward and living the active, pain-free life you deserve. The material contained within is provided for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. You should seek medical care for any specific health issues and consult your physician before beginning a new regimen or purchasing any products.